Are you buckling under the pressure when the king is or isn't watching, finding it difficult to have those weeks pass by without your walls tumbling? Well, today I'm going to go through 10 top tips to help you progress in The King is Watching, a brutal, minimalistic strategy sim. I'm JammyGiraffe, covering all things roguelike, from tips, reviews, guides, tier lists, you name it. Please hit that like and subscribe and support me so that I can continue to do more roguelike content. But for now, let's get into it. Tip 1. Managing your troops is critical. When generating troops, you can cap on how many can be on the battlefield, but the only other cap you have is based on the capacity of your buildings, but you can go above that with certain spells or king abilities. The thing that is critical is understanding this button here, which allows you to have troops that are trained spawn directly on the battlefield or within your barracks, allowing you to then select which units go onto the battlefield with each other. You can hit this button to see who is on the battlefield also, and manage who is in your barracks so you can send people in and out, as long as you're not already over your cap. You have to have the available room in the various buildings or barracks for that particular unit type. So as an example, if you've got 2 of the peasant huts, giving you a cap of 4, if you already have 5, you can't put them back in. So it's critical to make sure that you can control who's on the battlefield and who is in reserves. Use this button to do so. And that decision should be all based on what bonuses you have against the different unit types. Tip number 2, choose the training bonuses wisely. When upgrading the various troop types and then focusing on those units is really important. I've won runs with single units by upgrading them over and over and then synergizing them with building bonuses. You can click here to see all of your current bonuses against the different troop categories, of which there are 8. Those troop categories are very important in understanding how you can synergize and what to focus on, depending on the particular challenge and level that you're focusing on. Tip 3. Don't be afraid to delete buildings. As the weeks go by, you will get additional blueprints and better units and resources. Don't be afraid to remove the peasant huts, the wells to begin with to make more room. Also, if you can sustainably generate higher end units, then don't be afraid to remove some of those lower end units too. You should consider each run as a early game, mid game, end game, and make sure that you're changing your units or upgrading your units to suit. The difference between the rarer units and the basic ones is massive. If you have the space, yes, keep those basic units in reserve and slowly replace them as you get those better units available. It all depends on the aim of your challenge, and you might not have the space available. Make sure you pace yourself as the weeks go by and get more difficult. Tip 4. Gold production and established production. Early on, you only have the market to make your gold at the very beginning stages of a run, depending on the king, which means you're losing another resource before getting the gold. So getting gold mines early is important and should be prioritized. You can really hold yourself back if you don't get that gold mine early in order to generate those bars you need to put various buildings into action. Plus, getting any of the established production versions of the resources is important, so you can get those wheat fields and sawmills that generate 1,000 units instead of 100, meaning that you're then not wasting various blueprint choices on those lower end basic productions. And not wasting the choice on those productions means that you can get more chances for better troops, established production, or kingdom infrastructure buildings, which is incredibly important as you move into the mid and late game. Plus, it's worth noting that you can build one of the tile enchanters onto an existing negative enchanter that is giving you a debuff. If you build one on top of it, it will remove it. Worth noting. Tip 5. Upgrading your gaze and troop capacity. Getting your gaze upgraded early is a huge bonus, but don't do it unless you have enough gold production to survive. As I said in the previous tip, getting your gold production going is incredibly important, and if you waste it on the gaze immediately, you might not already have a gold mine, you might not already have good gold production or economy set up. Learning the right time to upgrade your gaze based on the resource production you have is really key. Basically, if you do have gold mine or any form of other gold production outside of the market set up and running, you should be good to upgrade it. By all means, you can use the market, but you're always going to be converting a various resource into gold, which will slow you down. When it comes to upgrading the troop capacity, you can pretty much do that whenever you wish, as long as you have the wood. Obviously, there are going to be certain buildings that are going to require wood to build, and you want to make sure that you're balancing increasing your capacity with making sure you have the units through the buildings that need constructing. There are a lot of units that do require wood to build the buildings and even for the production in some cases, so making sure you balance that with the troop capacity, which purely requires wood and a lot of it, make sure you're balancing that out. It's also worth noting there are many ways to increase your troop capacity with the various relics that increase it. And now for an important bonus tip, but make sure you like and subscribe and let me know in the comments if you got the bonus tip. Always have some buildings that give a bonus during combat, or at least in the late game, make sure you have this. There are various buildings that when your gaze is upon them during the combat phase, such as the arena or tavern, give you such benefit. Particularly another example is the artifact, which allows the forests and trees to do damage to the enemy. These can be a real benefit, particularly in some of the earlier difficulties. These can be make or break for you. Having a setup like this so that you can either generate units or make your units more powerful during those attack phases is a really beneficial. Thanks for all the support. Let's move on to tip 6. Tip number 6. Upgrade trees and advisors. The big upgrades to go after are anything permanent. My suggestion first would be to remove the noble buildings, which gives you a larger area inside your walls in which to build and focus your gaze. Other upgrades I would suggest would be just increasing the number of advisors you can have and also getting the king that best suits you. Understanding that different kings have different shaped gazes and benefits is important so that you can play to a style you like. My preference and one I suggest is King Saladin. He's fairly early on the skill tree, so he's easy to get to, and he can have a massive gaze once you've done multiple upgrades because he can upgrade it 6 times. Plus, he has an ability which allows for constant unit production and blueprint production so that you can farm to get those right buildings you need and consistently have units churning out on top of your capacity. The advisors are also very powerful, and finding the correct combination not just for you but for the king that you're using and for the challenge that you're completing is important. Tip number 7, challenges. So as I said, understanding the challenges that you're going to complete is important. Once you know the upgrades that you want to aim for on the skill tree, understanding how the challenges work to get the crystals for the skill tree is important. As an example, did you know most of the challenges can only be done at difficulty 1 or above, so you can't actually do it on the Ascension 0, which I learned the hard way unfortunately, thinking that I was hacking the system by doing it on a really easy difficulty. Alas, I was wrong. But going into runs knowing what you might aim for is such a big benefit. Are you trying to get 1,000 wine or get rid of all the trees via deforestation? It's important for the meta progression of the game to go in with that challenge in mind, at least once you've progressed into the harder ascensions. Tip number 8, wave choices. When choosing your wave choices, don't push it. Sometimes it's better to get hold of the situation by going for the really basic choices so that you can gather your troops again or get that resource that you need again. But also understand what the difference is between the various basic and established production means. What's the difference between basic and elite barracks? What's kingdom infrastructure? Getting your head around that is very important. Basic production being those 100 or 200 unit resource farms and trees, whereas the established production being the 1,000. Then you've got the basic units and the rarer units being the basic and elite barracks, and kingdom infrastructure, which are typically the rarer of the buildings that have very unique capability. Understanding what you need to progress, so knowing that you need established production of a gold mine to be able to then get those elite units that you're looking to get onto the battlefield is really important. So make sure that when you have the wave choices that you choose based on what you need, but also don't push it. Tip number 9, don't be afraid to move buildings also. Moving buildings can make the most of the larger or oddly shaped gazes that you might have. It's important, and the lower production time doesn't last that long, to be honest. Being able to move buildings so that you can produce units at the same time as producing the resource that is needed for those units can be hugely beneficial. Make sure that you understand where to place the buildings and the resources to benefit everything around it. To do that, you're going to need to move buildings holding the shift button. Tip number 10, extra benefits. Don't underestimate the significance of some of the resources and buildings. For instance, the wine, which gives morale and is used during combat, each point of morale giving 1% extra damage depending on the king. Some of the buildings that can generate spells can be huge, so that you can cycle through spells and save the good ones for that last boss. Getting defensive towers built, which is difficult but can be incredibly useful. I think it's easy to fall into a habit of just basic resources and massing huge amounts of troops, but this isn't always enough. You need to have that blend and understand what those different benefits can do, such as making sure you read the units and understand how their bonuses work. Each of the different units has a different attribute, and how they can affect each other is really important. So as an example, there are certain ranged troops that if there are warriors on the field, those warriors will gain additional health. There are ones like the madmen that if there are enough of them, they gain more and more bonuses based on the number of them that are on the field. It's important to understand these extra benefits across resources, buildings, and units, so that in the end game, you're not being detrimental to yourself with the choices that you make. So there you have it, 10 top tips for the king is watching. Hopefully this has helped you out. Please hit that like and subscribe to support me continuing to make content on roguelikes, but also, and more importantly, drop into the comments and give any tips that you've thought of. I don't claim to know everything. I'm sure there's things that I might have missed. My next video is going to be covering the rare rooms for drafting in blueprints via a tier list, but also I think I'm going to be doing a tier list of the units of the king is watching. I have been JammyGiraffe, sending love and positivity. As always, see you in your next run. Jammy out.